Okay, hello and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Could you just state your full name and your business name for us?
Okay, so my name is Wendy Gill. The business is called Female Tyler.
Amazing. Tell us what challenges have you faced as a woman in the industry?
I think probably generally the perception, particularly tiling, is considered to be, quite heavy duty construction. So I think it's always kind of like I'm giving the side eye when I'm explaining what I do, that kind of thing. So it's, society's perception and kind of obviously, I wouldn't even say anymore. Necessarily those in the industry. I think they just maybe question your ability a little bit, and sometimes have to kind of work harder and show more commitment and all that sort of stuff. Whereas I think a man could probably just roll up and give it a go and get given a chance,
Right, absolutely. What inspired you to get into this trade?
It's a funny thing because I fell into tiling, absolutely no doubt. I didn't kind of set out to want to be a tiler. I literally fell into it. I kind of, by having to do my own necessity.
Right.
And I kind of enjoyed it and, quite like the whole, for me, like tiling literally makes the kitchen and bathroom, if you see what I mean, because obviously you've got the plumbing, you've got all the other bits and bobs, but it is literally, the paint on the walls, it's the tiles that you choose and all that sort of stuff and how it comes together. The design of it is kind of what makes a kitchen and bathroom, and for me that's the part of it that I fell in love with.
Right. And do you help your clients do the design and everything?
I can do it. It very much depends on the client because
Right.
Again, I tend to stick to domestic work mainly, so I can have that interaction with the client and help where needed. And the idea being, some clients come to me with kind of, well, we've chosen our tile, and some of them are kind of, they have about 3 or 4 tiles, and then some of them are like, I kind of just want this, I'm not too sure, and that kind of thing. So it really just depends on where they're coming from, because the bottom line is that, they have to live in it every day. They need to see it every day. They need to be happy with the final choice. So I'm just trying to help them get there, and help them enjoy the space that they have and translate their vision if they've already got one and that kind of thing. So it really depends on the client themselves. And I enjoy that interaction.
That's awesome. I find that that some of the design aspect is difficult because, like you said, they have to live with it for so long. And sometimes you're like, oh my God, I don't want to pick that because you're nervous. Yeah, absolutely.
There was a fine line between kind of giving guided advice versus almost being heavy-handed with kind of giving the advice. Because obviously, I wouldn't want to change anybody's mind.
Right.
It's not about that, but it's definitely about asking them whether they've considered the pros and cons of their choice.
Yeah, what they're selecting. Yeah, totally.
White grout or white grout and white grout and white tiles on floors, might not be the best idea in the long run. Do you see what I mean? That kind of thing. So, absolutely. But again, if that's the look that they're going for, then, who am I to like change their mind,
Yeah, absolutely. Because we do the same thing sort of, and I find it challenging to do the design with them because I'm like, what if they hate what I pick, right? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, again, this is where it's that interaction that I do like, because by talking to them, getting an understanding of what exactly means more to them, so for some clients, it's like, oh, I need it to be durable. I want it to look nice, yeah, but I need it to be just easy cleaning. I need it, that kind of thing. Whereas some clients are like, well, I really want something that's going to like stand out. I'm looking for a bold color. I'm looking for, you have to have that conversation with them to be able to gauge what's important to them,
Absolutely. So what are some of the reactions you get when you walk on site to do the tile?
Well, as I said, this is my name is Female Tyler, and that's partly the reason. When I first started tiling, I used to get calls and comments kind of like, oh, we had someone applying. Is your husband around? Is your partner around? Thinking it was someone else, right? So
right.
That's kind of how I went with the handle Female Tyler, because it just became easy. At least this way you kind of know
what you're getting into. Yeah, absolutely.
Pulling straight away. So that's number one. But secondly, again, this is why I mainly do domestic work, because I will say that I've experienced site work, and it's not. I didn't quite enjoy it. It wasn't to my liking. It wasn't. I didn't get what I enjoy, the interaction with the clients and stuff. A lot of that is lost completely on big site jobs and all that kind of thing. Right. So they focus a lot more on sort of cost and speed and that kind of thing, whereas you're working with someone in their home. It's the care, the attention, and literally the customer service part of it more so that that is of more importance to them. And that's the part there that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
Mainly. So I kind of stick to what I like.
Yeah, well, that's the best thing. It's good to love what you do, right? It makes us go to work every day. 100%. So did you go to school for the trade, or were you self-taught?
I would say a bit of both. I definitely went to school. I did the MVQ qualification here. So there's, I probably started with like a one-off course, and there's a huge element of being self-taught. There's no doubt. But then I had gone to trade school to get that qualification. But I'd probably say a bit of both. A bit of both. Yeah. I mean, the qualification's there 100%, but I think the majority of it has been through experience only, Yeah,
well, I mean, that's where we do most of our learning, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you face any challenges when you were in school? Was it mainly men in the trade school? Yeah. What was that like?
Well, you kind of know what you're signing up to, don't you? You kind of know what you're signing up to sort of straight away with that. It's definitely a case where you kind of know what it's going to be like straight away. So I can't say it was a surprise to kind of get there and it be like that. It wasn't too bad. I mean, to be fair, I'm probably not like there's certain people who look like they might be a bit of a victim. I'm not that person, so I probably kind of held myself well enough to not kind of get any open abuse. So I didn't really get any of that, if you see what I mean. Met a few people, had banter, that kind of thing. So to be honest, for me, it was like adult college. It was like adult college. Like, it was definitely a safety net there that kind of didn't want to leave, really, to be honest. Like, okay, so I've got to go out and
do this.
I mean, it was a blessing that I'd kind of started doing it before I actually went to trade school. So I kind of like was just, kind of gearing up to get back in. But it was definitely a safety net being there. It was like adult school, really. So yeah. Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, I quite enjoyed it. I did quite enjoy it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I couldn't say I had any real bad experiences there. There was definitely, kind of side eye kind of thing, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but, like, who's this?
Yeah. What's she doing? That kind of thing. But I wouldn't say I got any real verbal comments.
Wow.
Anything like that. Wow.
That's awesome.
One of the lucky ones, I get that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know how it can be.
So my last question here is what can you, so I have two more questions, sorry. So the first one is, what's the difference now between actually owning the business and when you first wanted to start out? What do you find is like the major difference there?
I'll be honest, as I said, I fell into it. So when I started out, it was literally just kind of like developing confidence, developing, my experience and all that kind of thing. I weren't really seen further than kind of probably the next job, all that kind of thing. So, that was definitely where I was then. Where I'm now is kind of gauged on, okay, well, how can I how can I grow this? How can I, how can I help others? Because one thing I will say is, I am, self-taught to a certain degree. And what I found was, there weren't that many people out there to call and for help, for support and all that kind of thing. And I feel that more women would do trade work, and particularly probably tiling as well, if there was a bit more of a support network,
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm coming from now, I'm coming from a place of trying to kind of help and support that.
Right. Well, that's awesome, because that our last and final question is, what can you tell young women looking to get into the trade?
I would say I'd just say to kind of consider it. I mean, it's a difficult one because I'm a believer that there's a purpose for everyone out there, and everyone's got something that they can bring to the table for any job. So you've just got to do you, try new things, and see kind of where you end up and see where you are. I don't necessarily think it's for everybody, but then I don't necessarily think it's for every man either, you see. So again, it's one of those things where, just keep your eyes on the fact that it can be a possibility, and there's something within that you might be able to find that suits you.
Right. That sounds great. Are we good?
We're good. We're at 11 minutes, so you can talk a bit more if you want to.
Okay. Do you mind if we ask you one more question?
Sure.
Okay, great. So just for some of the people that are interested in getting into the trades, what would you say are your general working hours?
So I have a little boy, so my working hours are between about 9:30, 5:30. So 9:30 to 5:30. That's what works well for me. But also, what I found is generally for most people, that's kind of about the time that works quite well for most people, because I don't know what's like where you guys are, but generally it's construction is quite an early start, kind of like 7-8 o'clock in the morning, and to be working in someone's home at that sort of time is, especially in the prime room, like a kitchen and a bathroom, they usually haven't used the facilities yet at that sort of time. That's kind of like peak hours for most families at that sort of time. So what I was finding, that it kind of worked quite well for the domestic work market, kind of 9:30 to 5:30. So yeah, that's generally the hours that I do. As I said, I work mainly in domestic settings in people's homes. So I generally have the kind of ability just to work with them in terms of timings, kind of what's good for them, what works for them. Some people work from home, some people don't. Some people can kind of basically you tend to just work it out. Yeah, you tend to just work it out. So some days might work for them, some days might not work for them. And we're in a kind of society right now where pretty much everybody is flexible to some degree, right? And it's a case of just working that out as to what we can do.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
The work needs to be done, the work needs to be done, how best it needs to be done. Really.
Right. Do you find that sometimes you take your work home with you, or do you shut down at 5:30?
Well, the thing about this sort of job is, there's always quotes to be done. There's always, there's always correspondence. There's always something. I don't think you can ever shut down. I don't think you can. No, you can't. I mean, you try. I think you can have days and hours of minimal interaction, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I don't think a complete shutdown is ever really on the cards, unfortunately. It's just, I'd imagine any sort of self-employed business person would say the same thing, though. So.
Oh, absolutely. So, when you price a job, do you charge per square foot, or do you charge based on the job that you're doing and its difficulty?
Yeah, no, I charge price per job. I kind of mix that in with kind of like what I'm expecting to actually earn in a day, kind of thing. So. Kind of how long I think it will take me versus what that job's worth and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't do the square meter as I think a lot of old school tilers might do.
Yeah, they do. Especially in Toronto, we get a lot of that per square foot tilers, but there's so much competition here, even with general building, that people will give prices over the phone just to outbid someone else. So I find the industry has changed quite a bit in that sense. That people will charge these incredibly low amounts and not put in enough effort to the actual job that they're doing, and then the job suffers and the client suffers as well.
Of course. So what I found, especially with something like tiling, you can make it look pretty very quickly.
Right.
You can make it look done very quickly.
Yes.
But it's the longevity of the job. Is it still going to be solid and standing in a month's time, when you can no longer find that same person, right? And that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. I think it can be very competitive, 100%. I think it's whether you just want to get involved in all of that. That's the thing, isn't it? Because you will find there are people out there who, they value more reputation and quality of work, and they're prepared to pay the extra to have someone that they know they can trust, or that's been, recommended, etc. So that's kind of where I'm trying to stick to, because I think you can always get someone who's going to do it cheaper, right? Always.
You can always find someone cheaper, and the quality sure does lack, because when you think about it and you price your material out and you price the install out, you're pricing for good quality product. And I feel like, do you feel like sometimes you have a hard time conveying that to the homeowner?
I think, again, this way you have to be very careful kind of what market and even kind of where you're promoting yourself to a certain degree, because there are, there's certain trades, I believe, that kind of, can hold their own. So, for example, people won't mess around with like electrics. They won't mess around with, like plumbing to a certain degree. But there's certain trades like decorating, like tiling, like there's a few other trades where people will give it a go, and because they're able to or willing to give it a go, they immediately almost dismiss the importance of a decent job or what have you. So it can get very very, very, very competitive out there. And I think, part of the reason why I kind of am trying to grow the business in the way that I am is like, at the very minimum, I'm trying to get to a space to help females to be able to do their own to a decent standard as well, right? So I have no qualms if you want to do it yourself and try and do it yourself. Just try and learn in the best way. And I'm trying to provide a comfortable environment for them to be able to do so.
Right. Well, that's great. So are you currently looking and growing your business, and in what way are you doing that?
As I said, I'm trying to get to a space now where kind of teaching, there's definitely an element of teaching, like workshops and what have you, to help women just, I suppose, learn skills for themselves generally. And the other element of that is encouraging women who have an interest in trade work, and maybe talent particularly, to come out with me and sample it and kind of like help them get work if this is what they choose to want to do, and go down that path, and kind of grow it that way. Because me on my own, I can't do everything. So the way I see it is to build a network, some sort of supportive network, to encourage, help, especially in the bigger jobs, right? To encourage and help. I'm trying to create that sort of environment for.
Well, you can also probably use them in the future. So teach them, and then use them.
100%, and vice versa, right? Because it's the thing, you even certain jobs, you might need someone for maybe a couple of days. You might not necessarily need them for the whole time, but you might need a helping hand, like a rip out, and kind of maybe grouting up, finishing. There's certain places that you could really use a helping hand on larger jobs. So I think it works both ways, and again, you learn from each other, right? You learn from each other.
That's so cool. So you do the rip out as well? You remove everything? Oh, wow.
Again, obviously, bear in mind it's always job dependent, because I work with a few females actually that I can call upon to kind of do some rip outs, etc. And in terms of tiling, well, retiling, I should say, there's always some sort of element of existing tiling there, right? So whether it's a wall coming out or whether it's a whole bathroom coming out, there's always the element of kind of taking down the old, so.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, that's great. I mean, that's that was excellent. That was yeah, that was great. I loved that. I loved learning about you and your company, and I'm so thankful that you agreed to join us today, and especially on short notice. And thank you so much for your time. We know how important time is, right, in this industry. Time is money.
It's true. No, it was, I came at a good time. It was a day off for me. I had to take today off for an appointment anyway. And when I got the message from you guys, I was like, oh, amazing. Because obviously I follow you guys on Instagram. I watch what you guys do, watch your little Instagram videos. I'm there thinking to myself, damn, I need to learn how to do this Instagram story thing better than what.
Yeah, I think women in business and women in the trade, we're all here to support each other. I mean, there's some people that aren't, but I'm always such an advocate for females in the trade, and I wish I had that when I was younger. So I try to be that for young women.
Push it forward, right?
Exactly. So did you have any questions for us before we sign off of here?
No, I mean, to be honest, what I want to say is I'm following you guys. I'm watching what you guys are doing. It's amazing. I like the team that you guys have built up over there, and I really do kind of admire that. If I could build something sort of similar in terms of like the network and the supportive environment, that you guys have got there, that I'd be grateful. I'd be absolutely grateful.
Thank you.
For me, that's what it's about.
Thank you so much. Well, if you ever need any help or advice or whatever, I'm always open to a conversation, and I love what you're doing, and I think you're so great, and your work is amazing, and it's really nice to see a company flourish, right? So I hope that we'll continue to follow you and support your journey, and we wish you all the best.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. By the way, whereabouts are you guys based again? Canada, where?
We're in Toronto. Yeah, right in Toronto.
We have family in Toronto, so if I ever come back there soon again, I'll make sure I'll try and look for you guys. Now that you've got a base, right? Now you've got an actual shop. Right?
We do. We have a HQ which we're in right now, but I would love to bring you on site. We could do a little tile job together. That would be great.
That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing.
Okay,
all right, so I'll definitely look you guys up. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Well, that concludes our episode. Thank you so much for listening in. So screw on or screw off. We don't care what you do. We'll check you next time on Screws and Stilettos.
Do you believe in magic?